back a show that I haven't done in a while, but I keep on the shelf called Conversations With. And the reason we're doing this one is basically because I realized that one of our hosts is in a contested race. So I said, well, okay, we are been very fair here about Westfield elections over the past couple of years, over the last 6-7 years where we've done the radio stuff. And I said, well, since we have a contested race in Southwick, and I know the guy who's running, let's bring him in. I said, this is an easy contact. I don't have to go through all kinds of rigmarole or hoops or anything. Let's bring him in and we'll start talking. Jason Perron, how you doing, sir? It's been a while.
Good, Pete. Yes, all those years working together at the station, and now you got your TV studio going here.
Yeah, it's interesting because your name came up. Joe went through on his show, Everything Southwick. He went through the list of people running for office in Southwick, and town election, I believe, is in about a week or so.
May 10th.
Yeah, May 10th. So we'll get this up as quick as possible and get it on. But he read, and I said, oh, I know that name. And he was pronouncing it wrong. And
I heard.
I don't think it was a slight or anything. I just don't think he knows. I mean, I think when I first heard your name or read it on the list, I was like, Perron. And I was like, all right, well, and over the years you learn pronunciations. So I corrected him. And it became, I guess it became a thing. But
Yeah.
I'm not worried about the thing because that's everybody has their own thing. So you're running for they don't call it selectmen, select board.
Yes. Select person, I guess, would be the proper term.
Yeah,
nowadays.
but select board, that's the office you're running for. My question, let's start the easy way. My first question is, what drove you? I found this with every candidate I've talked to over the last 6 years. There's something that brings you to a point of saying, you know what, I'm not sitting on the sidelines anymore. I'm going to be part of the solution instead of just complaining about it, be part of the problem. What brought you to that point?
Well, everything that's been going on over the last couple of years with the different projects and the different the recall attempts and stuff like that. I moved back to town in 2019.
Yep.
I was, when I left for the Air Force, my hometown is Southwick High School graduate. I know some people have said I'm a transplant, but I'm not. So, Southwick in the area has been considered my home. So, I've, from afar, whether it was when I was in the Air Force, whether, Westfield's not that far, but whether I lived in Westfield in these years during the police officer, I've always kept an eye on what's been going on in Southwick. My brother-in-law and sister live in town. My mom lived in town from 93 to about 2002. And like I said, it's home. So I've always kept an eye on what's been going on. I pretty much wanted to run. The big thing I've heard all the time, especially when all this stuff went on, was, we need some change. But
was there one specific issue that drove you over the edge, as they say?
I would say, I wouldn't say it was one specific issue. I really, from talking to the citizens and the residents of town, it's the way certain everything is handled nowadays.
Okay.
There's some folks think it's time for something different, a different perspective, a different point of view, and that's what I want to try and give them.
Okay.
I want to. They say a lot of people say they don't feel like they have a voice, or they're kind of ignored or marginalized. So I've taken that to heart. I kind of went in the whole. You're not. It's a big thing amongst the people. You don't say Carvana, but
that was a big issue. So as I'm listening to Joe and hearing from other people, that could have been a big economic driver. But with any big economic driver, there's always give and take. There's goods and bads with anything. So that would have brought in a lot of tax revenue to the city, but then there were the environmental concerns on the other side of it. So
this is true.
Where do you want to? So the question is, as a citizen of Southwick and now running for office, where do you want Southwick to go? Like, do you want it to become more industrial, like a West Springfield or Holyoke has become again?
Industrial, I can say outright. I wouldn't want to see it become industrialized. As a Westfield resident, I lived on the north side of town, and we all know what the north side of Westfield is like.
Yep.
It's obnoxiously horrible to get around once the traffic starts, and it's nothing but constant trucks. I can't recall all the specifics, but originally when Carvana started, I was like, well, what's such the big, what's a big deal?
What's the big deal, right? Yeah.
I always, as a, over the years of saw all that land that was for sale. I remember it as Colbro Tobacco.
Yep.
And, when it went for sale as a commercial, I'm like, well, that'd be a good place to, put like a shopping plaza or something like that.
Yep.
Well, I've learned over the years, well, that's directly over the aquifer.
So that is a water source for Southwick.
That is, yep.
Okay.
It's not the whole project wouldn't have been over it, but and then as I paid attention to it, like I said, I wasn't originally opposed, but I needed to learn more about it. So I dove into it, and there was originally statistics that came out. Well, those are like the opening statistics. If you looked at what the full capacity running was, it was significantly higher than what was being presented. So they were talking about, I forget, 60 to 70 acres between the of impervious surface.
Impervious surface. So
Yeah.
for people who like me who don't attend every conservation commission meeting because I have to, impervious surface basically says if you look at a field, right, that's all dirt, that is pervious surface. That means the rainwater can go through to the groundwater.
Correct.
If you put a parking lot or a foundation or a slab of concrete or something, that now becomes impervious surface. So that nothing percolates through that ground. It goes off to the edges of wherever the hard surface is, and then it drains out. So you're losing that catch, almost like a catch basin.
Correct.
So you'd be losing acres of land because they'd have a massive parking lot.
Yep. So, really, as I dove into it more, and really, I personally think the reason Carvana was coming, and this is my own personal opinion, our tax rate is $17 for residential per thousand, as well as commercial.
Yep.
Which
is pretty reasonable, yeah.
It's very reasonable.
Yep.
Obviously, I believe Westfield is double. I believe it's right around, I can't remember.
Well, and also in Westfield, it's a little bit different. So the businesses pay there's a split, a shift.
Yes.
So the businesses pay a slightly higher rate than the residentials do.
So, but, that's something that, and a lot of people have said, well, we need to change this. If I get on, I need to look at everything. I need to learn. It's going to be a learning curve for me. So I'm listening to what the residents have to say and taking that into consideration. And
well, a question for the overall philosophy for the town. You could go the direction that Longmeadow went in and went very few businesses in town and a very high residential tax rate, and they have great services.
They do.
Or you go a mixed format like Westfield, or you go a format like Russell or a town like that where the tax rates are low, but you also don't get any services for it either. So I don't know if you have any thoughts about that, or
absolutely
kind of where do you want the direction of Southwick to go?
Really, it's about balance.
Okay.
I don't think, personally, after researching it, I didn't think Carvana belonged in Southwick.
Okay.
Actually, if you do some research, there was just an article the other day. Carvana lost huge amounts of money. I can't remember whether it was the billions or the millions, but their stock rate dropped 79%.
Well, because they had no inventory.
Well, true, but and that's the thing that's concerning it. And some of the citizens have pointed certain aspects out. I've tried to research those, can't find that, but I really don't think this infrastructure of the roads in Southwick, as well as just the traffic that would have been able to handle 98 to 100 trucks a day. They just did all that work. And
was that their projection for number of vehicles in and out of there?
Yes, I believe it might have even been higher at the level. Like I said, I've read some of this stuff, and I've read so much stuff over the last many months trying to be more informed and, with what's going on. So, I just personally don't think the infrastructure of Southwick was designed to support a large commercial facility like that. I mean, like I said, you look at the north side, of Westfield, you got the giant CNS, you've got the Lowe's, and these are on 2-lane roads that if you go up there, the backup even to the pike when school lets out and the work lets out. Sometimes it's stretched past Southampton Road, and Southwick is very similar. They put in that extra, as everybody likes to call it, the suicide lane, the turn lane. So many people don't know how to use it. It's not even funny, but
That is correct. Yeah, if you go down south or in the Midwest, they're everywhere.
yes.
But up here, it's like a newfangled thing for New Englanders.
Yes, people like to straddle them and not
Yes.
actually use them properly. But so it was, that was one of the main things that really pulled me in. I was standing from the outside. People have asked, well, you didn't vote on this, and 2019, I didn't sell my house until I was in Westfield. I was still, and I couldn't register in time.
Yep.
So, 2020's COVID, and they're right. I haven't voted in anything Southwick, but then again, pretty much everything's gone uncontested, or there's so many additional boards and commissions in Southwick.
Yep.
You can't keep track of them all sometimes.
Right, because it's a full city structure, just like Westfield.
Yep.
And I didn't realize. I mean, I kind of had a good general understanding of how many boards and commissions there were in Westfield. And then when COVID hit, and they all went to Zoom, I knew exactly how many boards and commissions there were in Westfield.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of moving parts in government. So the question begs is, I see having more impact like the planning board or the conservation commission. Why did you target for selectmen?
Basically, I'm a communicator.
Okay.
I hear a lot of people, and I like to be not a mouthpiece for any individual group. I am a true independent. No, there's people are worried about, well, he's going to be a mouthpiece for this group, and it's manipulation and bullying. I'm not for all that.
Okay.
It's about what's best for the town of Southwick. I want to keep Southwick, but to go into the future, we need to bring some business in. It's about, like I said, balance in the proper businesses. I don't think the giant industrial facilities are the right thing for Southwick. That being said, we do have Wally Industrial Park. If something that was big, that I felt was proper and that belong in there, I'm open-minded. I'm not the type of person that's going to be closed-minded. I'm going to listen to all the sides. And if someone says, makes a very valid point and their argument is a very good one, you might be able to change my mind. A lot of people were upset that there was, everybody seemed so set in stone. But, that's not the type of person I am. That's not how I want to govern if I were to be elected on the select board. You've known me for years. The way I treat people is the exact same way I want to be treated.
Right.
With respect, listen to them. One thing I've learned in my 26 years as a police officer, 90% of the people, whether you agree with them or not, they just want to be heard.
Yep.
They want you to realize that they matter, and they're being listened to.
So
So to go all the way back to your question, it was the Carvana was part of it. There was the big recall Russ Fox thing. I was not a supporter of either side. My philosophy on that was Mr. Fox was legally elected properly, but the people who wanted to recall him also have that right. So I had to stand on that one, and I stood right in the middle. And then there's the different, like the proposed development ordinance and bylaw. And again, one of the things people have said to me over and over again is they don't feel like they're being listened to. A lot of people, the comment that's been made to me is there's complacency, there's comfort where people just assume they can do whatever they want.
Okay, so here's the thing. So if somebody talks to you and you've done your research and you say, how do you tell them that after doing my own research, I can't support you or I don't think you're right? Like, how do you broach that? I mean, for me, that's a constituent to say they want to be heard, but then if you tell them they're not right, that's where something like the Russ Fox recall starts.
Well, you're never going to please all the people all the time.
Okay.
So you just have to explain your position. I think one of the things, again, that I've been hearing from a lot of folks is they felt that no matter what they said, the town fathers and governors,
Elected
they
officials.
were not going to listen to them. They were set in stone. This is what they wanted. But, I don't feel that way. To me, like I said, if you make a valid enough argument, I'm going to agree. I might agree with you. I might switch my position. But, I've said to several of the people that have come to me and said, we really support you and we want to see the change. We think it would be good to get a new perspective and stuff like that. I said, don't think just because you support me, I am going to automatically support everything that you believe in.
Right.
If I have an opinion about a business or a bylaw or
An
ordinance,
industry or something
Yeah.
coming in.
if I feel that it's good for the town of Southwick, that's my opinion. That's something I'm entitled to. And the others are entitled to theirs. And I would just explain myself in full detail as to why. With the whole Carvana thing and
Well, and see, here's the thing about that, and this it never even got to the select board. You know what I mean?
No.
It was sat in planning, and it was being discussed in planning. And from me watching planning meetings here in the city of Westfield, that does take a long time for stuff like that. And everybody got up in arms just over the initial projections and things like that, and it never got further than that, as far as I could tell.
I think you're right. There was such a public
It was
outcry.
like an immediate. It was visceral.
Yes, yeah. It got too, in my opinion, polarizing.
Yeah.
There was, if you're not on this side and you're not, it's a microcosm of politics right now.
Yep.
If you're not on this side or this side and you're somewhere in the middle, you're a pariah. The people, you're not one of us.
Right.
And that's the type of person I am. I'm not one of anybody. I'm me, and I want to listen to everyone and base my opinions on that. And, we have to look at the statistics. We have to look at what the proposals are. We have to look at where it's going to go, what it's going to affect as far as the infrastructure, services, stuff like that. And, again, after doing all that research, the Carvana thing, again, was not, in my opinion, right for Southwick. And it's just a conglomeration or, of all the different things that I'm like, you know what, I really want to be involved in the town, and I want to give people the opportunity for the change they claim they want. So if they want this change, I'm here. I've been to many meet and greets. A lot of people understand my vision and what I'm really about. But
have you been sitting in a lot of the meetings, different boards
I
and
have.
commissions?
I've gone back and watched a lot of the recorded Zoom meetings, some of which have become quite contemptuous amongst each other.
They've been very contentious, yes. Well, last year's town meeting was even a bit contentious.
Yes,
I was there for that.
My career, so I'm sometimes unable to attend these types of things.
Sure, yeah.
And people have said, if you are elected, how are you going to deal with that? Well,
That was going to be a question coming up, but go ahead.
I will. How our department, my place of work.
You're a
works.
full-time police officer.
We have,
Yep.
we have comp time, we have vacation time, we have personal days, and we can do shift swaps. And I've got a lot of folks at the department that are, they think I'm crazy, but they're very supportive. I've heard that from a lot of people. Why on earth would you want to do this?
So this is my thing. I'd probably make a decent city councilor in this city, but because I work right under the mayor, I can't. So like I can spout off about stuff, but it doesn't do any good. You're kind of putting your money where your mouth is and saying, "Hey, I'm willing to put in the work on this," but you guys got to understand that I might not always agree with you.
Correct.
And I think that's kind of where every politician's at nowadays. It's saying, and I know politician's a dirty word and all that kind of stuff, but everybody's saying, hey, listen, sometimes I got to wear the big boy pants, and maybe nobody likes it.
Somebody
maybe that's
needs
when
to
I'm
step
doing the
up.
right thing.
A lot of people, again, I've heard all this, and I'm like, all right, everybody talks it. Exactly what you said. Put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
And I had mentioned way back during some of this stuff, I tend to stay off of social media partially because of the way what my career is.
Yep, sure.
And and we all know some of it's just trolling and antagonizing. So I haven't had a large social media or digital footprint because I stand back and I read and I pay attention to everything, but I don't jump into the useless banter.
Yeah. So I've been encouraging this on every radio show that I do. Every time I get a microphone in front of me is, y'all can't just come in when there's a big issue and you want to complain.
Correct.
You kind of have to understand how these things work before an issue like a Carvana comes up. You really need to sit in on a few meetings here and there. And
That's
not always
something I said exactly in, I can't remember whether it was in one of my meet and greets or something I wrote. I think part of the problem was people just paid attention to the status quo. They're like, all right, everything's this. They weren't involved. They didn't pay attention to the way the government in Southwick ran or government
anywhere.
Yeah.
It is amazing to me that we made it so much easier for people to participate on Zoom. And yet they didn't.
That's like even now even before I announced my candidacy or that I was going to run, I've been paying attention to the different meetings because, like I said, I can't always attend, and even if I'm on, I've got to work that night, I attend via Zoom when I can, and but sometimes working in a midnight shift, I have to go to bed and get some sleep.
Sure.
But, the Zoom thing is fantastic, as well as the Zoom allowing us to record things and not wait so long sometimes it took back in the day?
You have to wait for the newspaper article to come out.
3 weeks before the recorded version was.
Or the meeting minutes would come out.
Exactly. And the meeting minutes are never, how those things work. They're never, they don't take everything into account. It's the meat and potatoes, not necessarily
correct
the extra stuff.
Correct.
So
you kind of have an idea how the select board works.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of have an idea of how the biggest thing that it was funny because having a new mayor and the whole Board of Health mask mandate thing, and people were like, the mayor should tell the Board of Health to drop the mask mandate, and I was like, he can't. Do you understand your limitations and working with other boards?
Absolutely.
Like if you want to see something get across the finish line in any form of government that I've understood, you have to work with other boards and commissions and things like that. Like I really think that Westfield should have a data center. I think it'd be good use for industrial land. But convincing people of that on 5 different boards might not always be the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that's been brought to my attention by some of the folks, and in some of the things I've watched and paid attention to, nobody seems to talk to each other ahead of time. And one of the things that I think should happen if I were to get on that I would propose is simplifying, instead of issuing a special permit through the select board or wherever, what you should have is a packet. This is what you have to do. It's almost like when I was in the military, you had a pack. When you in-processed or out-processed, you had a packet. These are the steps you had to take before you could even get out. And I think that's something should happen like that, so everybody can communicate with each other and they know their exact positions, what they can and can't do. There's a lot of either lack of communication or miscommunication that I've seen and heard about or observed myself.
So let me make a suggestion for something you might want to consider should you get elected. The city of Westfield has this really cool thing called the Round Table, where a lot of the department heads for boards and commissions and things like that get together once in a while, and I think it's like a monthly meeting. But anybody with a big project coming into town usually gets invited to the Round Table or says, "Hey, show up with your presentation," so that everybody in all the departments kind of have an idea of, hey, somebody wants to put in an industrial complex up here, and this is the general rule. And then the round table points them in directions to go, well, you got to go here first, you got to go there second, you got to go here third. Would you kind of bring that idea to Southwick? I don't know if they have something like that.
Good question. I know we've got town meeting, we've got some of I know in certain commissions and boards, some of the select board members act as
Liaison.
yes, committee, and they're also a committee or commission member, very similar to the way the mayor in Westfield is part of the school committee, but he's, it's not really, he's not elected. He's just, that's one of his positions.
Yeah, right. Yep.
And the select board is the same way in Southwick.
Yep.
They are the school committee per se, with the addition of
because it's a regional setup and they're part of a regional. Yeah.
So a roundtable is I think
That sounds like what you want.
exactly for the citizens and the government. It would behoove everybody just to sit down. The town meeting brings up a lot of these warrant articles and stuff like that, and they're not all necessarily something that everybody agrees upon.
Right.
One of the big things that's coming up now is the proposed development ordinance bylaws, which I do support. I think it's a good thing. It allows people to really assess what's going on, how it's going to affect the infrastructure, how it's going to affect the services, and does it really fit with where Southwick wants to go, where Southwick is, and the ability to support something like that.
Well, and I know that the chairman of the select board, Russ Fox, is coming on with Ken next week, so this will be up.
Actually, Joe's the chairman.
Okay, maybe
Unless
Joe
they've changed it.
Maybe Joe didn't want to do it, but Russ Fox is coming out with Ken to discuss the town meeting warrants and to kind of explain it to everybody, so that people can kind of have they can see the show at their leisure on YouTube.
Yep.
And kind of see where the select board, I guess, is at on all the articles on the town meeting warrant this year. Mm-hmm. But I did the last two in the parking lot, so I might get away with not having to do it this year. But yeah, I thought that was a good thing, and I learned a lot about Southwick doing those two town meetings. Believe it or not,
I think I think that's one of the greatest thing about our town government. It's really some of those things that ultimately it's the people that make those decisions, and that's. As an elected official, that's what you're there for. You're there to represent the people and your constituents, not yourself or your best interest or the things that really personally. If you think it's a great idea, you should sit down. You should tell everybody why, and that's what I want to do. I want a transparency, and I want to be approachable, and you know me, that's the type of person I am.
Yeah.
I'm a communicator.
Yep.
I can get along with and talk to anybody, whether I agree or disagree with you. I'm the type of person I can agree to disagree.
Well, and listening to the other viewpoints, although it may not change your mind, you at least understand where they're coming from.
Exactly. And again, like I said, that's one of the things I've heard. But I think again the polarization of some of these events
the hot button issue was that one thing that kind of brought everything to a head, and that I'm sure that moved a lot of people to come out and say, okay, I'm going to start getting more involved, and I wish they would, except more so in the day-to-day stuff, like go to a planning board meeting, maybe become a planning board member, maybe become a conservation commission member, maybe become a finance committee member. Those are very important things that impact you in a day in and day out basis. Or
at least go to the meetings and understand it.
Right. We have got a couple minutes left because we're going to do a half an hour.
Yep.
This is your chance to get up on the soapbox and give your sales pitch to the people of Southwick and say, why do you want this job?
I want this job because I want to see Southwick continue to grow the right way, and but maintain the character of the town. It's been my home, and the area has been my home for a long, long time. I am not a transplant, as some people have said. I care. Granted, some of the people that say that, they were born, bred, and never left Southwick. I think one of my greatest advantages is when in the Air Force and as a police officer, I've gained that ability to listen. I've been exposed to different cultures, points of view, economic situations, and I think that allows me a little bit more than knowledge, outside knowledge of what other people might want, rather than just a narrow point of view. I love the town. I raced motocross for many, many years. I was the head official for the New England ATV motocross prior up for 10 years. I love the track. I love the town. We
Well, there's a reason you moved back to the town.
exactly. It's where I want to be. I love the fact that where I live now, I've got 60 acres of open space behind me, and I want to make sure we keep that too. Southwick needs to maintain and stay true to Southwick, but at the same time, you can't preserve every piece of property. You can't stifle every bit of development, but I think the best thing to do is to include everyone and do what's best for the town. Some of the other things I would look at is I have some of my own ideas. There's some areas of revenue sources that are not being tapped right now that would cost the taxpayers of Southwick absolutely nothing. You know, I'm going to come right out and say it. Put a dispensary in Southwick. I know it may not be the older crowd is fearful of that, and what's it going to bring? As a police officer, I can say I have not seen a huge increase in one of the things that everybody's concerned about, the driving while on drugs.
Yeah, driving while intoxicated of any form is intoxication.
Exactly, yeah. So, that's one of the big fears. I know people, the 1950s reefer madness movie, people jumping out windows.
Yep.
Honestly, as a police officer, when I've dealt with people that are under the influence of marijuana, I'd rather deal with them than the people that are than alcohol. The people with alcohol are mean and rotten. But that's a primary source that I think is being neglected. I mean, Westfield, just with the one cannabis connection, and this is during this whole pandemic and period, they got from cannabis connection almost $400,000 in a down year. And things are starting to pick back up. Now they've got HECA. Connecticut has recently legalized it. And we need to, almost like the casinos, get in on the ground floor because it's a revenue source that's not being tapped. We have the farmland. There's the marijuana overlay zone. I am not a marijuana smoker, never have been. When my grandfather passed away when I was 11, he made me promise I would never smoke anything. To this day, I've held that promise. So it's not something I'm interested in from a personal level, but I think it makes a lot of sense to utilize that.
You see it as a business decision.
It is. It's like people are going to do it, then they are, because Westfield has it. Southampton, East Hampton, Northampton, Holyoke, Springfield. So it's not like they're not going to be using it in Southwick. Why not take advantage of the fact that we can get something out of it rather than nothing? So there's that. There's a couple of things that may not be popular, but I'm going to outright say it. The meals tax. We don't utilize it in Southwick. In my opinion, if you're going out to eat, it's a disposable income, because you could stay home and eat with the groceries, stuff like that. I think if someone can go out and spend certain amounts of money on a large dinner, I think they can afford just a little bit. And these technically, unless you're one of the people that's from the town that's going out, it's not costing you as a taxpayer anything. I would rather, I hate to say it, I would rather put a little bit of tax on the people that are coming into town, and I know this is not going to be a big popular thing. I don't lean to the liberal side. I'm definitely more of a conservative. But again, it's about balance and give and take on everything, developing, taxes, everything like that. I don't want to see taxes raised ever, but we know that's not realistic. At some point, the revenue source coming in is going to be outweighed by the output of what, the service, to provide the services that we have in Southwick. When I was a kid, there was a volunteer fire department. You didn't have a full-time ambulance or anything like that. Southwick now has that. The police department has grown, not by leaps and bounds, but it's
proportionally,
still,
yeah.
Proportionally. And I've seen the town grow in a positive way, and I want to keep it that way. I want to support businesses, but support the residents as well, and listen to what everybody has to say.
All right. Anything else you got before we wrap it up?
I do have a Facebook page, Jason M. Perron, for Southwick Selectmen. I post on almost all the Facebook forums that revolve around Southwick. I have a couple more events coming up. I've got Winfield Circle, the 55 plus development right off College Highway, just past the Hash House. I'll be having a meet and greet on the 4th at 7 o'clock there. I also, on the 7th, I believe, Saturday, May 7th, at the former VFW, I'll be having a meet and greet / cookout where people can come. I know one of the biggest things people have said, well, what's his position? What's his position? I will.
Well,
and I've said
you got a good start on it with this video once this gets
and
out.
I'm the type of person that I've said it online numerous times. It's been in some of my flyers and even my ad. There's been ads in the paper.
Yep.
There's more coming out. I will come to you. Let me know where you want to come. And that's the way I plan on being. If I were to be elected, I want to have like the roundtable type things. I want to do that with the citizens. I want to, just like, Senator Velas and former Senators, Representative Humison, everybody did. They had those, for lack of a better term, coffee hours.
Yep.
So I want to remain approachable, and I want people to understand I'm not there to change this town of Southwick just for change's sake, because that's come up numerous times. I want to change things for the better. I'm not looking to upset the apple cart. I'm looking to add more and newer and different types of apples.
Okay.
So.
Sounds good. So we're going to wrap up the interview now. Good luck.
Thank you. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity.
No problem.
And post this out here.
One of the nice things about having the public access and kind of reviving it is we do have the opportunity to talk to candidates and to just get the message out there.
Yep. And folks, like I said, please reach out.
Vote.
Vote. That's the big thing.
Better
yes.
yet.
Vote. If
I'll get up on my soapbox for the last 30 seconds.
Vote.
Because
whether it's for Joe Didi or Jason Perron, please come out and vote. Show that you care. You see a massive turnout in presidential elections, but guess what? The guy sitting on the other side of the screen in the other box, and his challenge and the challenger for it, the two people running have way more effect should they get elected on your daily life than any president ever will. Yes, it's true.
So this has always been a pet peeve. Vote local elections. It's okay to vote in the national ones too, but vote in the local elections.
Yes.
And we'll wrap it up that. So when's the election day?
May 10th.
And then followed a week later by
the
town meeting.
Correct.
Yes.
So either I believe, based on everything I've read, if I get elected, I'd be sworn in at the town meeting, I believe. Again, I don't know everything about the town. Nobody can. It's just like being a police officer. I don't know everything about all the laws. And should you win, I'm going to hold you to this, is that Everything Southwick has been a show, the longest running local show outside of Westfield that we've had. And I'd like to continue, whether it be, if you want to continue to do it or anybody else. I absolutely would. I think it brings a lot of value, and it does get issues out there because, we have to do these things. Yes. People need to be informed. People need, and the ability to be much more informed and much more aware a lot sooner it's out there now. So even if it's just getting out the events. Yeah. Not much going on in town right now, but we got a whole bunch of events coming up. Correct. So all right, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for coming in, Jason. Good luck in Thank you, Peter. Good luck in the election, and we'll be seeing you soon either way. Either way, yeah, I'll be glad. Hey, if I am the losing candidate and Joe wants to have me on and talk, I'd be glad to. Absolutely. Sounds good. Either way.